Okay, excellent. So we'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. We have our code change proposals that we're starting on for the 2021 cycle. Ray, you want to take roll call and make sure we have a quorum today?
I absolutely will. Okay, so Tony Doan,
Here.
Meg Haley, Quinn Ty,
Present.
John Napier, Mike Six,
Here.
Dave Cocott,
Present.
Ken Burlett,
Here.
Damon Jed, Chris Seaman,
Here.
Corey Thomas,
He is not here. He's in Ocean Shores having a good time.
I got that email. I was jealous. Kevin Marr, Zach Tuck, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. If anybody logs off, let us know because we needed 7 for a quorum.
Excellent. All right. Anyone from the public that would like to be recognized?
John Sue, representing the Washington Association of Building Officials Technical Code Development Committee.
Welcome, John.
Thank you.
John Heinley here with OSPI, the Superintendent of Public Instruction.
Welcome, John.
Indeed.
Okay.
Sir, it's good talking to you, sir. Take care. Bye-bye.
Is there anyone else from the public that would like to be recognized?
Scott Lang with Honeywell Fire.
Welcome, Scott.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, we'll move to agenda item number 2, which is review and approve the agenda. So we have that up in front of us now. Any changes proposed or discussion?
Yeah, I would like to propose an additional agenda item.
Okay,
And
go ahead, Ken.
that would be to have a discussion about IFC section 904.11, the 904.111, 112, and 113, creating an emergency rule. And this is for the certification of service personnel for fire extinguishing systems. The reason for that is that the current emergency rule for the implementation of this is going to expire and will be implemented July 1. The problem is the language in there is unenforceable in a couple of the sections. So I would like to discuss proposed changes to that we could implement into emergency rule so then it could become enforceable. That would be the proposed added agenda item.
Okay, Ken, would you be okay with, let's see, adding that as number 5 and moving other business to 6?
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine with me.
Okay, can we get a motion?
Excuse me, Ken, were you going to move items 19 and 20 to the front?
Oh, yeah, that was, yeah, it just on the other agenda, I guess, was we have our code change proposals. And that's really not, it's agenda item of 4, but on the list of the proposals, if we could just move John Sue's and John Napier's ahead of the 002 and all that when we get to it, but I don't think that's an
Sorry,
agenda item.
Wrong agenda, sorry.
Yeah,
No, that's okay, we can do that.
okay,
We don't need a motion. That spreadsheet is just for reference. We can go in any particular order for people who may log in and need to get out.
Okay, so Ken, is that, so we have a motion from Ken to adjust the agenda and add item 5 for 904.11, 112, and 113. Do we have a second?
This is Chris, I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Discussion? Okay, all those in favor, aye.
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 Okay, all those against?
Nay.
We have one against and the rest are in favor, so motion carries. And with that, let's go to agenda item number 3, which is the review and approve summary minutes from 3/11/21. Ray, are you able to pull those summary minutes up?
You bet.
Okay, hopefully everyone had a chance to take a look at these. So is there any discussion or modifications that we would like to make on the summary minutes from our last meeting? Not hearing any, so we'll be looking for a motion to approve.
A motion to approve the minutes as written.
And I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion from Ken and a second from Quinn. Any discussion? All those in favor, aye.
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 Any against? Okay, motion carries.
Mr. Chair, this is Quinn. I think the process is because John is going to be presenting for Washington Wobble TCD, and I am part of that group that I have to recuse myself.
Okay, all right. And Ray, it looks like Matthew Campbell showed up. And so
Yeah, I have him down. I
Okay,
have him.
all right. Sounds good. Thank you, Quinn, for that. All right, so with that, we'll jump to number 4, which is review code change proposals. These were approved from the council meeting 5/21. So we're going to jump into that document. And we are going to start with John Sue. Is that correct? That's how we want to do that. And okay, excellent. And we'll let him go ahead and take care of his proposal and present that. And how we're going to go through this today is we'll go through these, and if it's something that garners a lot of discussion or back and forth, then it may be something we have to revisit or but what we will be looking to do is the ones that we agree on, we'll make a motion to go ahead and approve and push it on to the BFP committee or council. So that's the plan moving forward with these. So John, the floor is yours. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and also Ray. Actually, I see that item 19 was attributed to John Napier, and actually that is also my proposal, or Wobble TCD.
Noted. Thank you, John.
So but we looks like you've pulled up 21st, and that's fine. We can start with that.
Okay.
This one here is essentially an undo. 2021 code, the IFC, there's a proposal made for the IFC to reduce the number of the height of buildings essentially eligible for 13R systems. And Ken Brulette and I both testified against that at the national. Unfortunately, we were not successful in overturning that, getting it disapproved. I believe it, for my part, it penalizes buildings that are built on certain types of lots with certain slopes. And so I believe that it really shouldn't have been adopted to begin with. Obviously, it did go through. This proposal just basically returns the Washington State codes to the 2018 language, and would maintain the original restriction, which is 60 feet, excuse me, above grade plane, which is consistent with NFPA 13R. I believe, Ken, well, I'll let Ken speak for himself, but when he testified, he did testify against that, this change as well, for a different reason, but, I did not submit with this, some diagrams that I had drawn for testimony at the national level, but I can do that if this generates a lot of discussion.
Okay, thank you, John. Is there any comments or further discussion on this or questions anyone has?
This is Chris. I think we talked about it before when we were going through the updates, and I totally agree. I think we pointed it out when we talked about it a few months ago, that it was kind of an odd change and wasn't a great change. So I totally support the language written.
I do have a question on the where it says the number of stories of Group R occupancies constructed in accordance with sections 510.2 and 510.4 shall be measured from, and then grade plane is struck, and then the horizontal assembly creating separate buildings. Can someone explain that as far as the significance and the difference in that language? I think I'm understanding it, but
Yeah, this is the 510.2 is the podium buildings. So you have a type 1 building down below and 3-hour separation. And basically that says you can count the number of stories from above the horizontal slab, the 3-hour slab. But the height in feet is still measured from grade plane.
understood. Okay, thank you. Okay, is there, Ken, do you have anything to add to that, being that you were?
I'm trying to save my voice for the next 2 hours. But no, I support it. We should just be keeping within the scope of 13R and not changing it.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you. Okay. Does anyone else, would anyone else like to add anything or any further discussion on that? Okay, that being said, what we'll be looking for is a motion to approve this as written and push it forward to Ray. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this will go to the BFP committee.
Yes, BFP or council.
What's that?
BFP or council, depends on if we have a BFP meeting before. But we'll say BFP, yes.
Okay.
So I'll make a motion. I'm going to go ahead and talk to move forward. And do we want to do it as the 21-GP1-020? Does that make it better to do it as that versus the code sections? Because there could be multiple ones that have the same code sections.
I like that. Ray, is that okay?
I think I missed that, Ken. I'm doing 3 things in the background.
Okay, so is it okay to move the actual number, the 21-GP1 for group 1-020, the log number? Because that one.
Do we want to move the log number in the motion? Do we want to move it as the log number instead of the code section, just in case there's multiple proposals that have to do with the same code section?
Yeah, I think we can do that. As Shannon does our logging, so I want to make sure I'm not messing up her pattern or her workflow.
Yeah, this is Dave. With this, what we've done in the past, we've done it by the log number, not necessarily by the section.
Thank you, Dave. Much appreciated. Let's go ahead and move forward with that.
All right, I make a motion to move forward with 21-GP1-020.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Ray, would you like to do roll call on these, or can I do a?
I think we're good right now. At least no one's, after we've got more people that have logged in, so I think we're still good.
Okay, all right. All those in
It's up to
favor?
you. You're the chair.
Okay, all those in favor, aye.
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 Okay, any against? Okay, motion carries to push this on to the BFP. And John, you got one more, right?
And
I think
Mr.
you're on
Chair, this
mute,
is
John.
Quinn again.
Yeah,
Um,
Quinn.
For this one, I have to recuse myself again because it's Wobble TCD.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, yes, again, sorry, this is, so this one is 20, let's see, let me get my log number up here.
I'll get you pulled up here too, John. I'm just.
Yeah.
Everything's
21.
running.
Sure, 21 GP1 019. And I'm sorry, I neglected to introduce myself to those of you who may not know me. I am currently a technical consultant with the Washington Association of Building Officials, representing their Technical Code Development Committee. I am the former building official and principal engineer for the City of Seattle, which is why Ken and I were collaborating at the national on that last proposal. One of the reasons, anyway. So this particular proposal is actually a new one. Was made at the national level this year at the recently concluded Group A hearings with ICC. And this one passed the committee, Fire Code Committee, was approved by them. Let's see. Oh, sorry, I got the wrong one up. What this one relates to is during construction, for mass timber buildings, type 4A, type 4B, and type 4C, the brand new ones, the mass timber guy, the big guys. Right now, there's a requirement that you can only have so much exposed mass timber. Essentially, it's 4 stories of mass timber. Then you have to start covering it during construction. Usually it's 1 layer of wall board, or you might be the exterior wall construction, depending on how the building is constructed. However, during the, and I can't speak for the committee, but I was on the ad hoc, I was actually the vice chair of the ICC ad hoc committee on tall wood buildings. And while I'm not speaking for the committee, I will say that we never discussed the idea of having to cover the top of the wood slabs as you're going up. So if you, those of you who may have visited Brock Commons in Vancouver, BC, this provision here was modeled on what they did there, what was essentially required. But they did not require that the non-combustible topping be placed on those wood floors. And so there's been a little bit of confusion apparently about that. And so what this proposal was made at the national level this year. As I said, it was approved by the committee. And so we're proposing to pre-adopt it here so that it essentially makes it a little easier for these buildings to be constructed. It's kind of counterproductive to put the non-combustible topping on top, or counterproductive at least as far as construction goes, because of the equipment will be running over it and a bunch of other things that it'll beat up the topping anyway. And plus you have to, it's a matter of sequencing the construction. Gets to be a problem. So we're proposing again to pre-adopt this. Hopefully will be approved at the public comment level in this fall for the 2024 code. So I think, and if there are any questions on that, I can try to answer them.
Okay, we'll open it up for discussion.
Do you remember what the code change proposal number was? I don't.
Oh,
174.
let's see, G174. Was that it? Hold on, let me pull up my notes here.
It's in the
Sorry,
proposal as F-174-21.
Yep, F-174. Yep.
So I'm reading the committee reason, because it was voted 9-4. And said that there was some concern that the term floor levels may be confusing in this application. Do we have to discuss anything more with that, or do you think that that was just an error on their part, the term floor levels?
I do believe so, but I did modify the language slightly from the F-174 proposal to try to clarify that. So you notice, excuse me, it says the exception refers to top surface of mass timber floor assemblies. And that's where I tried to clarify that you're just talking about the top surface there.
Okay, thanks.
If at any point anybody needs to see more of the document, please let me know, or if it's not big enough.
Okay, any other questions for John, or concerns or discussion? Okay, with that, we'd be looking for a motion to pass this on to the BFP committee.
Can you give me the number that it is? I'm on my phone, it's really small.
Yeah, 21 GP1 020 or 020.
This is Chris. I move this amendment forward to the BFP committee. GP or 21 GP dash 020. Did I get it right?
Yes.
Or two? All right.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from Chris and a second from Ken. Discussion? Okay, all those in favor, aye?
I,
Okay, and Quinn has removed himself from this. So any against? Nay? I'm hearing none against, so motion carries.
Thank you. Thank you, committee and Mr. Chair and Ray, for your attention and for letting me go first.
You're welcome, John.
Take care,
Thank you
guys.
for your hard work.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, do we have any others that we need to get out of the way before it's the Ken Brulette show?
Nope.
Okay, Ken, the floor is yours, my friend.
all right, so Ray, go ahead and pull up your document for this one, because this one will need to get modified for the 002 one.
Okay, are we gonna start at the top and work our way down?
Yeah, yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Okay, 3021.
Hold on, I'm gonna kick the dogs out of the office here after you pull that up.
Are you seeing the proposal right now? Or are you just seeing the agenda? Oh, yeah, okay. Sometimes I don't know if I have to stop share and reshare or not, so I just.
Okay, so yeah, 302.1. All right, if you could just stop where it has the number 4. And if you want, like I said before, I can drive this if you want and share my screen, but it's up to you.
I think it kind of helps if we're going to make changes, so we don't have. That
So
way you're seeing the change I'm making, and
so this is a clarification that needs to get changed, but with the first part of it, the outdoor assembly event, that does not need to be added. So I'd like to remove that. It's just the mobile food preparation vehicle definition needs to be listed in the 302.1 section, because it's a new definition in chapter 2. But the outdoor assembly event, that was my mistake. That does not need to be in there because it is not used in chapter 3, but the mobile food preparation vehicle is. So just a clarification. There you go. And that's it. That's as simple as that one is.
Okay, so would you like to discuss this one at all, Ken?
Well, that's it. The discussion is mobile food preparation vehicle is a new defined term in chapter 2. It's used in chapter 3, so it needs to be added to the definition section in 302.1.
Understood. Okay, all right. So any discussion from the group on this or concerns? Okay, excellent. All right, we'll be looking for a motion to move this forward.
I move that we move, move that we move it forward.
Thank you, Dave.
Second.
Have a second from Matthew. Thank you. Any discussion? Excellent. All those in favor, aye.
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 Any against? Nay. Motion carries. Ken, the floor is yours.
All right, the next one would be 003. I'll wait for it to load up.
We'll be up in a minute.
Somebody has to
Everything-
get more squirrels for Ray's internet connection.
Well, if this is a continuing slow issue, I have no problem in going into the office and running it from one of the conference rooms privately. All right, here we go. It is 30211. Ken, we're supposed to be giving you the hard time about this, not you.
Hey, any delay on your part. All I know is that I appreciate everybody starting early. Just because I can only go till 11:30, so I'm trying to go as fast as I can. All right, so this next one is IFC section 321.1 under artificial combustible vegetation on roofs and near buildings. So a concern was brought up and some discussions I had with people regarding 1 and 2 family dwellings, and that people are using some of these artificial planting materials around their structures in lieu of natural plants. And I thought that in the exceptions, we shouldn't be having the fire code official driving around to single family homes and telling them that they need to move these. The only thing that I did not do is any research with the wireline interface code to see if there's any problems with that or not. And I put in the same exception that's already being used in 307.4.3, which is, let me just pull that up really quick. Which is for the portable outdoor fireplaces exception for 1 and 2 family dwellings. So I just, I'm not going to follow my sword on this one. I just thought it would be helpful so nobody would be going around and trying to enforce this section on 1 and 2 family dwellings.
Okay,
Can would this also address or be part of the new like AstroTurf yards? Would that be under this?
It could be. I believe this proposal was originally established through Vegas, and it had to do with some of the stuff that they were installing on top of on roofs, and that's why it was brought up to begin with. So it's kind of strange the reading just the language of this to begin with, but I'm just worried that if people are going to put any type of decorations on the roofs or near the buildings, that it just doesn't apply to 1 and 2 family dwellings. I don't have anything else, any other history besides the Vegas stuff.
okay, excellent. Does anyone have any questions, comments, concerns? Go ahead, Quinn.
Is the intent also to exclude like adult family homes?
I
Because
didn't-
adult family homes are considered 1 and 2 family as well.
Yeah, I don't care either way. If somebody wants to change some language on it, it'd be great.
And are you thinking about moving it just to our occupancies?
I wouldn't think so
it'd
because
probably be
of-
better to refer to the IRC structures,
Yeah,
Yeah, I agree with Dave there.
because then we're dealing with the townhouses, homes and all those other things. So we just say got artificial decorative vegetation used in IRC, some kind of terminology of that IRC structures.
Structures regulated by the International Residential Code, maybe.
Yeah, there you go. That works good too.
okay, let me see here. Well, you said regulated, right?
Used in structures regulated by the International Residential Code. Residential code.
Oh, sorry. I'll clean these up with,
Yeah, you probably keep
Yeah.
use that too, probably, I think.
artificial decorative vegetation regulated by the International Residential Code. I like that.
No, it should reference the structures themselves, like,
Yeah, I agree. Used at 1 and 2 family dwellings and townhouse structures regulated by the IRC. So I kind of like having the used at 1 and 2 family dwelling, but add townhomes structures regulated by the IRC. That makes sense?
I was just trying to keep it short.
Yeah, I think that's more than you need to say, Quinn, as long as it says IRC, that means all those things.
Yeah.
I think we just need to add used at or in is in there, right?
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, bring that back, yeah.
Use for
Mhm.
structures because it could be on as well, when we're talking rooftops. Use for.
I think as long as the intent is pretty clear, we'll be okay. We just, I think like Ken was saying, we don't want somebody getting way ahead of themselves and start trying to drive around houses and try to regulate this.
Right.
Yep, looking at the intent.
Okay, excellent. So we got some updated language here, and I think everyone's on board with. So we'll be looking for a motion to push this forward as written.
I'll make a motion to approve as modified.
Thank
I
you.
second, yes.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
I,
Any against, nay? Okay, motion carries.
The next one up will be the 004. And I feel like I'm the Safer Building Coalition. So there'll be several in chapter 5 in the 510 section, similar to what we did for the 2018 Washington State Code. We brought forward a lot of the 2021 language into the 2018 code, and there'll be some proposals that will be trying to do the same thing, bringing some of the 24 proposed code language in that went through the committee very easily into our 21 code. And then other proposals will be based on the regional meetings that have been happening over the last year and the code changes that have happened at some of the larger cities that have to deal with this on a regular basis. So this one is minimum signal strength into buildings. And this is just a clarification of where it should actually be measured, the inbound signal. And it just wants to make sure that the negative 95 dBm is measured in is in 95% of the coverage area, which is defined someplace else, and 99% in the critical areas. So it's just a clarification that was requested. And I believe, let me just double check something. Pull up another section of the code here. Five, two, four.
So it basically looks like they're pulling some of the language from 510.4.1 and putting it into 510.4.11.
Yeah, it's again, yeah, it's just some clarification. It's not like it's anything new. It's just exactly moving some language that is already in minimum signal strength into the building, but it's just, where is that? Where do we want it? Well, we want to make sure it's in 95% of the coverage area, 99% in the critical area. So it's not a technical change. It's just a clarification change for that section to make it a little bit more user friendly. That's all I have on that.
Okay. Great. Any discussion on that or clarification needed?
This is Chris, would it be cleaner to just reference the sections that are later on that talk about how to measure like the grids and then the coverage in the critical areas? Would it be cleaner to just say, you know, in areas as specified in this section instead of repeating it? Just from a having to keep up with it changes, but I know we're watching it close, so I'm not too worried about it.
I mean, that's one way of doing it. Is basically you're giving the user another pointer, so now they got to go to another section. Versus just keeping them in this section, and then they get the answer that they need.
Yeah, both are cool with me. It's just if there's a better way, if one of those is better code language, I don't know which is, but.
And hey, everybody, I don't care what gets approved and what doesn't. It does not matter to me. So there's nothing personal on any of these things. Not that anybody cares if they piss me off.
No, I think all these are good because of all the stuff I deal with answering questions and interpretations. It's a lot of them are in 510. So I think it's all good stuff.
If you hate me at this meeting, just wait till the next one after the other 25 proposals.
All right, so with that, I think we're comfortable with the language as it sits, unless someone wants to make a proposal for a change there, but so we'd be looking for a motion now to push this to the BFP.
So moved.
Thank you, Dave.
Second.
Thank you, Chris. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, aye.
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 Any against, nay? Okay, motion carries.
Okay, so the next one,
Okay.
straight down the line, right, Ken?
Yeah, for right now.
Okay, so 5, 10, 425.
Yep.
10.
Oh, Jesus, which one was this?
All right.
All right. So this one was when one of these regionally adopted changes for the 2018 Washington State Fire Code. So some of the regions, Bellevue, Redmond, Seattle, did make some of these changes already. And this is what their current language says in their code right here. And I don't know if any other jurisdictions made these changes or not from that group. I didn't keep a log of it. But let me run through it really quick. So did some clarification, and I'm just going to try to read it and explain it. The monitoring, the in-building two-way emergency responder communication coverage shall be, or shall include automatic supervisory and trouble signals that are monitored by a supervisory service that are enunciated by the fire alarm systems in accordance with 72. And then it brings up the following conditions shall be separately enunciated in the fire alarm system, or if the status of each of the following conditions is individually displayed on a dedicated panel on the in-building two-way emergency responder communication coverage system, a single automatic supervisory signal may be enunciated on the fire alarm system, indicating deficiencies of in-building two-way. So what was going on is that on these in-building systems, you can have a separate panel, a dedicated panel that will identify these 1 through 8 signals on them. And that's okay, versus, and then it will send a supervisory signal to the fire alarm panels. The fire alarm panel will then report a supervisory signal. Then you go to the building, says supervisory signal for the in-building system. Then you go to the in-building panel and it will list the 1 through 8. In lieu of having to pull 8 separate supervisory points just from the fire alarm panel. So you can do it either way. You can add all these supervisory points to your fire alarm system, or you could have a separate panel that lists them and just send the supervisory signal to the fire alarm panel. Does that make sense? You get your choice.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, because that's what's happening out in the field, is that they're having these separate panels that are showing everything. And then people were being told, well, now you have to put 8 points on your fire alarm panel also, when you really only need to do 1. And then there was just some clarification of the number 6 and number 7 of what that means. And that was just based on some of the industry discussions using appropriate terms. I'm just going to double check. Yeah, well, I can't double check what was done before, but so that's the presentation on that item.
Any questions or comments?
Is number 8, the oscillation, is that added language or is that new to the 24?
Let me see if I have the Washington. Let me just double check.
Or is that new to the 21 and I haven't caught up yet?
Well, I'm pulling up the red line. It's new in the 21. Thanks, Dave.
Okay,
Yeah.
I just haven't reviewed anything that's vested in the 21 instead of the 18s.
Okay, any questions, conversation, discussion?
Oops.
All right. With that, looking for a motion to pass this on to the BFP committee.
So moved.
Thank you, Dave.
Oh, second.
Second, thank you, Mike. Thank you, Chris. Any discussion? Excellent. All those in favor, aye.
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 Any against, nay? Okay, motion carries. Thank you.
All right. 6, Ken, that,
Yep, yeah, the next one, 6006. It should be pretty quick. All right, so this is an existing Washington State amendment. The 51051 is the new numbering in the 2021 IFC. So it kind of just relocates it a little bit. And again, it talks about the antenna mounting of it shall be on the highest possible position on the building, or where approved by the fire code official. And then we got rid of that it needs to be mounted on a movable sled. And that was the language that I believe was currently in, but this has been renumbered into a different area. And I'm pretty sure that the language is exactly the same. I'm trying to pull up. I want to make sure I pull up the correct code comparison.
Would they
Insert.
still be able to mount it on a movable sled if they wanted to?
Well, if it's approved by the fire code official, sure.
Okay.
But I'm pulling up the state ones now just to make sure the language is exactly the same. Yeah, the highest possible position. Yep. So yeah, there is no change to the state language. It's just a renumbering. There you go. So this should be a slam dunk.
Excellent. Any
And-
discussion? Looking for a motion to move this to the BFP committee.
So moved.
Thank you, Dave.
Second.
Thank you, Matthew. Discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any against? Nay. Motion carries. Thank you.
Okay, next one is 7. Heck,
Uh-huh.
there it is. Oh
No,
yeah,
that's
this,
not it.
yeah, oh, I had to wait for
I'm
it.
trying. I'm trying. I'm sorry.
It's all right. And I'll talk about this really quick. It's just a renumbering of the 510.5 installation requirements. Right now, it goes to 510.5.2 through 510.5.5. And it really needs to be 510.5.1 through 510.5.7. And the reason for that is if the code changes go through in the section 510.5, which I'm anticipating they will, we just need to clean up this section so it references the appropriate ones.
So.
And the
with-
reason for that is
with-
just that, let me just back up really quick. I'm sorry, that the one that we just worked on, the 510.5.1 mounting of the donor antenna, that has to get included. That's why that renumbering needed to change, because now mounting the donor antenna is 510.5.1. It wasn't, it had a different number before. It was 510.5.5 before.
Yeah, the 2021 only goes to 510, 5.5. So. are you
Exactly. So
proposing-
you're going to see additional proposals that are coming forward for a 510.5.6, I believe, and a 510.5.7.
Okay. So we probably need to make some reference here that this needs to be tied with those other proposals, because we don't want to adopt this one and find out we don't adopt the other ones.
Agreed. Do we know the numbers, the log numbers on those proposals?
Yeah, hold on a second.
I can add them.
That'd be great, Ray, if we could do that.
I'll just put like C. What do you know which log numbers they are, Ken?
Yeah, I'm trying to find them. Hold on. Wiring 510.5.6 is number 14.
Well, let me
And
get.
identification signs is number 15.
Okay, so it would be which?
So yeah, so basically is, yeah, as long as those two go through, Because even only if one of them goes through, we might have a numbering issue, but yeah, the correlation needs to happen.
What numbers are they again, Ken?
14 and then 15.
Mr. Chair, would it make sense to table this one until we go through the other ones first?
Yeah, Ken, is it the 14 and 15, those are proposals just to line up with what we're seeing in front of us now, correct?
Yeah, 14 and 15 is brand new language that nobody's seen yet.
Okay, we can either table this till 14 or 15, or we can jump to 14 and 15 now. And if we like those, we can make a motion to move all three through.
Yep, I just want to keep the wording in there so that if it goes to council and somebody says, well, I don't want 14 now, that even though we've approved it, they could make that modification. So I'll make sure that everybody's aware that those are all tied together.
Yeah, Ken brings up or Dave brings up a good point.
Yeah, or is it possible, is this the kind of stuff where it's staff just coordinating to make sure that numbers match up? Because, like, does it even need to be a separate proposal? If it's
Honestly,
coordinating references.
Honestly, I think it needs to be a separate proposal, and I'm okay with going to the other one, just because I have seen this numbering not being able to be kept up with staff, not for their fault, just because they don't have a method of keeping up with it. So
Gotcha.
this is the way of keeping up
Tracks
with
it for them. Okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
I like this. I like this based on what we've had in the past. So it makes more sense.
As staff, I like it too, because if I'm rewording this in the OTS document, I know immediately to go back to these two logs and make sure they're cross-referenced right.
So Chair, I'm okay if you want to table this and we just move on to 14.
Let's do that. Okay, we'll table this and go to 14.
I'm gonna leave the language in here though, that we just put in. Okay. Your dog wants in, Ken.
Nah, it's the 16-year-old dog that wants to be fed.
Okay, so we're going to 14, 510, 56.
Yep, under wiring.
Says it's coming. There we go.
Okay, so this is a new section titled wiring. This is something that gets brought up consistently, that I have to answer this question for other jurisdictions that send their people to me, and other jurisdictions calling me of for these systems, what is backbone wiring, and how am I supposed to protect it? What type of wiring it needs to be? And so what I did is I took, since the section 510 references NFPA 21 and 1221, it says you will install it per this. I brought the definition of the backbone wiring and how it's supposed to be, what type of wiring is supposed to be, into the code, and then came up with a way to interpret what NFPA 1221 says. Is it talks about the building's fire resistive rating, and just kind of did a correlation again with the shafts and interior exit stairway. So quickly, how this reads is that the backbone antenna distribution, the radiating, or any fiber optic cables shall be rated as plenum wires. So the basics is all the wiring has to be rated as plenum. And then you have to say, okay, now we have backbone cables, and they shall be connected to the antenna system, the radiating or copper cables, using hybrid coupler devices. Again, this is all out of 1221. And then backbone cables shall be routed through an enclosure that matches the building's required fire system rating and for shafts or interior exit stairways. And the reason for that is that people were putting backbone stuff in 2-hour rated enclosures when the rating of the building was maybe only 1 hour. And so there was no reason to have this, this wiring in a more stringent enclosure than the building itself. So, and then also added some language in there, the passage of the cable itself in and out of that enclosure shall be protected as a penetration per the building code. So there was always been, the Safer Building Coalition has this explanation on their website, but it's just something that I always get the question is, how do, what does my wiring need to be, what type? How is that backbone? Does my backbone stuff have to be 2-hour rated or not? Does it have to be in a rated enclosure? And the answer is it needs to, the hourly rating needs to match what the building's rating is. And there's no longer the survivability. That whole survivability for wiring does not apply to this type of wiring. They don't have a level 0, 1, 2, 3 anymore. That's something that's not used. It's just back to the fire system rating for the shaft and interior exit stairways as outlined in 1221. So I'm going to mute myself since the dogs are barking because FedEx is here.
Do we want a, unless I'm missing it here, do we need a reference to NFPA 1221 in this?
So at the very beginning of 510, and let me just double check. So at 510.5, it says installation requirements shall be in accordance with NFPA 1221 and sections 510, and that's the proposed change that we just tabled, which includes the wiring. So basically I'm taking the language that was in 1221, put it into the fire code, so it makes it clear.
Understood. Okay, now I'm following. Okay, being that we have one more, unless there's discussion we want to talk about now for this, let's do that. Let's open this up for discussion.
I like it. It'll save me some time explaining it to everybody on every project.
Okay, excellent. So with that, because 15 is what adds the 7, right? We want to go to proposal 15 and go over that now. Am I doing this how we, okay,
Yeah, that's fine. Then you guys can like vote on them all in a package if you want.
perfect.
17 is 51064.
Yeah, so the next one is a new section 510.5.7. So you want to go up.
Oh,
Yeah, you want to
which-
go up. You want 510.
Oh, 15.
7.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. 510.5.7.
Yep,
Okay.
510.5.7.
I might have put some wrong log numbers in that last document. There you go.
All right, so this was one of those items that was added again by the regional people that have to deal with these things a lot, is to put an identification sign near the fire alarm panel, that actually says, hey, guess what? This building has an emergency responder radio coverage system. And the control equipment is located in room, wherever it's located. If it's not located in that room, it can identify where it is. And it's just, it helps with technicians trying to find the equipment in the building, because they could be the ones that didn't even install it, and now they're trying to find it in the building, and of course there's maybe no plans available, and so they're just trying to find it. So if we get them started at the fire alarm panel, that will help them define the location of it. And that's all this is. It's just a sign. Nothing else.
Now, the only concern that I have is when we say the, in quotes, so we're gonna get signs that say this building is equipped with emergency radio coverage system, control equipment located in room. That's what we're gonna get. So I think the intent is that we need to say the control equipment is located blank.
I'm happy with any type of amendments you guys want to make. So it's just going statewide.
Yeah.
Could also say, or other language approved by the fire code official, and that covers it
Mhm.
potentially.
Well, just even saying control equipment located in room doesn't really tell you anything. Which room?
Right. You may want to say for whatever job it is, I don't know, left of the main lobby down the hallway or something.
Just because I deal with the signage a lot where people will go right out of the code and say, well, that's what the code said for signage, so that's what I put in there.
Yeah, I agree with that. Control equipment shall be located in blank.
Did we come up with a language?
Yeah, I think we just want to take away room and put in like blank, like a blank spot, which would be consistent with other. I've seen that before in the fire code, so we can do that.
Oh,
So that would just be like underscores, basically, that section would be.
okay.
Let's see here. What do I want to do?
That's how I do my underlines anyway, unless someone knows of a different way. Or my blank spots, okay. Now with that, do we want to add or approved by the fire code official? Would that help out also?
I would also suggest that, yes.
Okay,
In the same quotes,
No, outside of quotes.
outside the quotes, okay.
Or as approved, probably.
While that's being adjusted, I would, I'm curious of the committee's thought on some form of, for lack of a better term, fire control room. What I'm seeing here is kind of equipment being put into another space. And then in the back of my head, I'm thinking, okay, well, we have the fire sprinkler riser room, and we've got a spot for these 5/2 smoke control panels, and then the fire alarm panel, and then the radio responder coverage equipment. What would be the thought or rebuke of the committee to create some form of watered down fire control room, something not in a house, but something for a building that has these systems that we can just say, this room really just needs to be a dedicated room for the riser, the panel, smoke control, radio responder coverage equipment, and just, I don't know. I'm kind of throwing out a Hail Mary a little bit just because we're talking about associated equipment, but just a thought.
Yeah, I think that, you know, that with the whole command room, you know, how that's just associated with high rises or buildings over a certain square footage.
Right.
That's normally where they pack everything in to begin with. It's those other buildings that don't have those
Right.
rooms. That's where I think our issue is.
Right. And that's actually precisely what I'm talking about is if there is a benefit to, like I said, a watered down fire command room, you know, because of course there's size and equipment requirements, there's separation requirements related to that. I don't know what that looks like. I literally, it's just off the top of my head just now. But if someone were to propose something, I'd be happy to write something up. I think there's some benefit to it. Just a thought.
Yeah, it's definitely something great for operations if we can centrally locate everything in a new building.
Would 5 be the place for that?
No, Ken's the author of chapter 5 here, so I'm curious.
So, yeah, I think we could put it in 5 and then, and glad that you brought it up because I think I do have let me just double check. We might be able to discuss it after we get sent the next batch of changes. So I do have no, I don't have a chapter 5. I do have a chapter 9 submittal for all of chapter 9 because I do get into the building separation. So yeah, I just think it's something that we could talk about and then figure out some language, but it's going to get some pushback, I think, because you're going to, you know, instead of just having something in an electrical room or something that's
Right.
It's going to get, you're taking up square footage and, you know, they're not going to like it. And we're going to have to really justify everything that we want in there.
If it were carefully worded, is there anyone who is listening that would be adamantly against something like that? Because I agree with you, Ken. I think we're using that square footage anyway. I mean, we're not talking about adding systems. We're just saying that all of these systems are consolidated into a common location. I'm halfway there in Bremerton. Like I'll require an annunciator panel in the sprinkler riser room if the panel's not already located there anyhow. But you know,
yeah, and that's where I think that you have some of that interpretation is that I could have all the main panels located in different areas, but I could have annunciator panels located at the entrance that I could just see everything that I needed to see.
Right. All right. Let me.
Wouldn't that want to be in the building code though? Because that's where people are going to see it first to know to make that room.
Good point. Yeah, I don't disagree that it.
If the room is required.
I don't know. Could you twist the verbiage of the requirements for a fire sprinkler room in 901 to include that when a fire sprinkler system is required? I don't know. Like I said, I'm just literally thinking about this. Or when these systems are required, they'll be placed in the fire sprinkler riser room.
It makes sense to put it in 9 because that we correlate with the IBC on that one.
Right. I'll put something together.
Yeah, so 508 and 911.
That link. Sorry, Mike, go ahead. I cut you off there.
Ray, were you saying to put it in, a suggestion of putting it in 508? I don't have that open right now. So.
No, I didn't say. I was just saying it makes sense to put it in 9, and so we correlate the ISC and the IBC together.
Right.
Is this discussion that we're having now, will that keep us from approving what Ken has put forward here in these 3 different logs? Do we want to table the whole thing?
No, I don't want to pull back from what Ken's been working on.
Okay. Okay, so we can continue to chip away at that other portion. And with that, we would be looking for any other discussion right now on the identification signs, the 510, 5.7 that's being proposed. And if there is no further discussion, what I would like to do is make a motion to push this and the other two. So we have logs 14, 15,
7.
and 7.
But I would also suggest we add the information we did to the other two in this one as well. We need to add in those other references for the proposals, and then I'd accept that.
Thank you, Dave.
So it'll be up, put 7 and 14.
So I do have a question, and it's more of a mild opposition for, I believe it's 14. I know in the ICC hearings, there was a lot of discussion about pointers and, adding languages that are in other sections or standards. So because 510.5 already points to NFPA 1221, and we're basically copying the language in, the concern is going to be the maintenance. If NFPA changes 1221, the maintenance of the IFC is going to be just as, I don't know. I'm just kind of throwing that out.
So the reason I brought it in is because the 1221 language is slightly different because it references, and let me just show it to you because it's easier for me to show it. Hold on a second.
You want me to give you a share, Ken?
Not quite yet. Let me pull it up first. I just got to make sure I pull it up and show it correctly. A second. Believe me, I don't like cutting and pasting from there either.
Yeah, Quinn, and while he's looking that up, I think part of the thing that I don't think you see is that I probably spend an hour a week telling people what that NFPA 1221 says.
Yeah, no, I completely get it. That's why it's more of a mild opposition on more of the maintenance. But if
Yeah,
it's
I
not a
agree. It's not.
complete cut-
Yeah, it's not good code behavior, but it's necessary to save us time overall.
No, I'm good with that. It was just something I just wanted to bring up, just in awareness.
Okay, I'll grab the screen now.
All right.
Okay, let me move all your heads out of the way.
I'm going to step away for 2 seconds.
Okay. So this is 1221, the 19 version. And so if you see here, the 9.6.2.1, that's where it says, in that section, it should be plenum rated. So in the proposal, that's where I came up with, because basically I made this one paragraph and I took these different sections. So there you have is the plenum rated. Then the next section down here is the duplicate regarding the connection. And then the 2.3, this is where the confusion comes in. Backbone cable should be routed through an enclosure that matches the building's fire rating. Well, there's nothing that really talks about that in the building code. So that's where I came up with trying to use shafts as an example of what the building's fire rating is. So we matched that so that you didn't jump to another section. And then 2.4 talks about the enclosure shall be fire stopped. And instead of fire stopped, I reference penetrations in the IBC. So I basically took that 2.1, 2.2, 2.3, 2.4, and put it all together into one paragraph and tweaked it a little bit for the building code and for us. So that's why it was done that way. And if you do nothing, then you're pointing everybody back to 1221, and they're still having all of the questions of what does this mean?
Love it, Ken. Thanks.
Yeah, it's good to know that I can send them up to you, though. I might start doing that.
Yeah. I could not believe the calls I got from Snohomish and Everett, and it was just like, leave me alone.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, so that being said, we're looking for, unless there's further discussion, a motion to move log 7, 14, and 15 to the BFP.
This is Chris. I'll move forward logs 7, 14, and 15 to the BFP.
Thank you, Chris. We have a motion.
And the second,
Excellent. And we have a second. Discussion? All those in favor, aye.
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 Any, all those against, nay? Okay, motion carries. Excellent.
Okay.
All right, so the next one will be 008.
I don't see 008 on my spreadsheet here, Ken.
Oh,
Did
wait a minute.
it happen to get skipped for some reason?
Hold on, let me find out. What number do you have the next one? as?
10. I go from 7 to 10 on our spreadsheet.
Hold
Are we
on.
missing a couple?
No, I don't want to. Oh, sorry. I loaded up 18. Okay, so 10's the next one.
Yeah.
Okay.
That'd be chapter 2, 918, IFC IBC. Oh, chapter 2 for the IBC.
Oh, there it is. Chapter 2 definitions. Okay. Okay, this. Oh yeah, this one. This should be pretty. This is a slam dunk.
Yeah. I gotta tell you, Shannon's done an amazing job with these proposals and getting them logged and filed.
Yeah, she was great. It's like she would respond within sometimes minutes or hours, not weeks.
Oh, no.
This is it.
Oh, is it? Okay,
Yeah,
scared.
this is it. Yeah, the real. Yeah, pretty sure this is it. Let me just double check what I got at the top of mine. Yeah, this is it. Okay. So I'm gonna get down to the number 5 section here. So this is actually a code proposal that's F32-21 in the Group A proposals for the 24 IFC and also IBC for the change. It's already been approved by the committee, and it's just to align the terminology that's actually being used by industry right now. And again, this is one of those, like we did for the Washington State Code for the 2018, we brought forward 21 language because this is just one of those industries that's moving so fast and so forward. So this is more of just a change in language. So you'll see things getting struck where it says two-way emergency responder communication coverage. It just gets replaced with emergency responder communication enhancement system. And so you'll see that just instead of coverage, communication coverage, two-way, those terms are scratched. And it's just to go along with the language that's being used right now in industry. So yes, it's a long proposal, but it's because the terminology is used in almost every section of 510 and also in chapter 11 and also in 918 of the IBC. So basically the proponent for the 24 change included all of these different sections for this code change. So this is again just a language to be consistent with what industries and how they're speaking right now out there. And again, since our code won't be adopted till 23, of course, I'm sure that, 2 years from now, this will be what everybody will be talking about. And if we don't make this change now, we'll be kind of behind the times.
Hey, Ken, I do have a question here. I did a word search on the 2021 IFC, and I found based on two-way emergency responder communication, I found 32 results. So
Okay.
is there gonna be a need to make changes throughout?
Well, you'll have to tell me if those 32 results are the 32 that show in here. Because if I don't know if there's more than one in it in the, because I show, what do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 26. I think I show 26 code references in there. I don't know if it's changed more than once in a section. So I'm
Quinn,
gonna,
an easier way to look at it.
and I'm just gonna make this assumption is that the person that proposes for the 24 code probably did that for the 21 code. And that's the reason they have so many different changes. I mean, just look at 1103.2 at the end. It's in there multiple times is the word two-way.
Yeah, there's two mentions in chapter 12 as well.
Yeah. Oh, there's 2 in chapter 12.
Yeah,
Chapter 12 of the,
IFC. It's 1203.2.3.
well, okie dokie.
Yeah, it does say two-way emergency responder communication coverage systems on it.
Oh, this is for the power supplies.
Right.
But that would cover wired and wireless, wouldn't it?
Well, it refers back to 510.4.2.3 specifically for the
Oh,
two-way emergency responder communication coverage systems are required in section 510.4.2.3.
Okay, so hold on. I want to make sure we're doing this. Okay. So what we could do, since Quinn did a fantastic job and pulled that up and saw that,
Sorry.
we could make that modification and include that in this proposal. I don't know if Ray, you have the ability to cut and paste out of the 21 code and throw that section in here.
I could do that. I could work on it.
And then we can come back to this at our next meeting.
Yeah, that's a good suggestion.
Yeah, just move forward
Yeah.
instead of trying to clean it up now.
Okay, sounds good. Let's go ahead and table this and we'll move on.
All right. But in concept, everybody's okay with it? I just want to make sure that I don't want us working on it and then,
In concept, I like it.
yeah.
okay.
Yep.
Okay, so that one was 10.
Goes faster when I don't have to save it. 510.1.
Yeah, number 11 now, which is section 510. Is that what we're on? Number 11?
510.1. I don't think that's numbered right, is it? Is it 510?
Yeah, no, it's right. Yeah, it's 510.1 in definitions.
Didn't get put in my folder. It does, oh, maybe it's down the bottom. 510.1. We just did definitions, right? Yeah.
Well, but there's different.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I found it. It wasn't put into a Word doc. So, all right. Let me know if you're seeing it. It came up funny.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
So just realize, of course, I didn't change any of the existing language based on the last proposal because of course it hadn't gotten approved yet. So this is, I believe, a proposal F34, again, that's proposed for the 2024 IFC, and it was approved as modified by the committee. And it adds some definitions of the terms frequency, frequency license holder, frequency license authority. And some of our discussions with PCERN and how that's going to change the world in Western Washington with regards to dealing with them is trying to come up with some better language that gives them some, I guess, teeth instead of just the term before was trying to remember what they called it before, some kind of radio operators, something of that effect. Well, the term, I just want to double check the explanation on this one. Well, I'm kind of, give me a second on this. I got to pull up the 21 code really quick, 510.1. Something's 510.1. Something's askew. Okay, so 510.1 1, 2, 3, look at the exceptions. Oh, yeah, so now I remember what this was, I'm sorry. So 510.1 in the 21 code, they got rid of the word radio, but in the exceptions here, they forgot to do it. They replaced the word radio with communications coverage system, but this was a cleanup for the exceptions for the term radio that should have gotten scratched, but it did not. It got scratched in the body of 510.1, but it didn't get scratched in the exceptions. And then again, the 3 additional definitions, and those are necessary because of the added language in 510.1 regarding that the communication coverage system shall be a type not only determined by the fire code official, but also by the frequency license holder. So whoever's in charge of your frequencies in that area is going to dictate what type of equipment is required. So this was just outlining it here in this section. And I'm probably leaning on Chris for anything else that would help explain this section if you're familiar with it or not for the 24 proposal. I have, there's a long explanation that I copied over from the proponent for this, and I don't know if anybody has read it or not, which is at the bottom of this in number 5. And again, it's
That
just
makes
one I'm trying to
it makes sense. It's tough because it's the people like us that do the plan review are not the radio people. And so looping those radio people in that actually own the frequency and deal with it makes a lot of sense.
I think we need to take a look at the wording, the first paragraph. You add the 1 sentence, the 2-way emergency responder communication coverage. In our previous proposal, we talked about change the 2-way out. So we're going to make sure we correlate those 2 together.
Yeah, and that's the issue with the poor staff at the state is they'll just reprint this and there is no correlation. And as you know, ICC puts together like a correlation committee to actually correlate this stuff, and nobody does it at the state. So yeah, I totally agree that they need to take a look at every single code change and correlate it, and it's just something they've never done in the past. That's why it's so messed up at the state sometimes.
Right. Well, so you're adding the 1 sentence in there. So I would expect at least the 1 sentence would have the new language, not the old 2-way communication.
And if correct me if I'm wrong, Ray, what we'll end up doing is you'll be creating a CR 102 for all of these in the future. And then at that point, we can make sure everything was correlated.
Yeah, my intent, something we did do last code cycle is I'm going to take all these and put them into one giant CR 102, or actually I'm just going to put them all in one giant OTS document with all the strikeouts and underlines and stuff. And then as a tag, we can review it and it'll be the whole cycle, and that will be before we file the CR 102. We have a nice edited document from TAG, council, staff, before we file it into the CR 102.
I like it.
Are we, would it be in our best interest to just add some red text at the bottom that references those other logs?
Let me see here.
From a
let me see.
language standpoint, not so much that they tie together, you know, completely, but like language to be consistent with logs 7, 14, and 15.
Where are you thinking, Tony? Just anywhere?
Just remember how you're putting the notes on 7, 14, and 15
Yeah.
at the very bottom in red.
Okay, let's see here.
Just
Would
something
this
that,
relate more to 10?
what's that?
Would this relate more to 10?
Oh, do I have the wrong one? Probably. Hold on, let me see.
That's where we were changing that, getting rid of the two-way and saying emergency communication. blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I had the wrong one. That's 10. Yeah, 10. My bad. Thank you, Dave.
Yep,
The
no problem.
21 GP10.
Yeah.
Yep.
A little bit different on this one. This is just a PDF document, so a little. Oops. All right, I got it. All right. Are we good for me saving this one now, or have we voted?
No, let's go ahead and we'll be looking for a motion to pass this to. Do we want to table this one for the sake of being consistent all at one time, or are we good to push this through?
Yeah, I would recommend, being that we have some work to do on it, we table it. And when we, at the next council or at the next TAG meeting, we address the ones that we rolled over first. To
Excellent.
get them out of the way.
I would disagree with that because you're adding the definitions are going to get added. The only thing that needs correlation, right, is, and you're not showing the same one, are you? What Dave was bringing up was the language change for correlation. So the proposal would get approved. It's just the correlation has to happen.
But if we're gonna push it forward, we have to do the correlation now, correct? Otherwise, it's gonna get approved by the BFP and passed on.
But you don't know if the correlation is going to get approved yet. Let me back up. We don't know what the next committee is going to do or not.
I see.
So I'm thinking that we have to take them individually, and then whatever gets through the process, then we got to do the correlation.
Okay.
I think that's right. I mean,
Both ways work. It just, however we want to do it, however the chair would like to do it.
All right. Well, we'll look for a motion right now to push this forward to the BFP then.
Okay.
Based on my experience in the past, I would actually like to see the language correlated before we pass it, only because of the history of the things that we've done with these systems. I don't want to have to put more correlation time onto staff. So I don't think it's going to hurt if we delay this one and do it with the other ones. So I'm happy in having this one just sit. I'm sorry, Ken. I think that's just make sure we get it right.
it don't bother me. I don't care. It's like Ray said,
Okay.
we could do it any way that we need to.
All
It's
right.
just, it can't get forgotten.
Right.
All right.
We just want to make sure we remember that, because that
Yeah.
always ends up a problem later as we get something, oh, we acted on this, what happened? It's not exactly what it was, and everybody's all split up, and it becomes a challenge trying to recreate what we did before. So it's best to create it and have it done.
That was my intent on the full OTS document at the end, so we all see exactly what's moving forward.
Excellent. Okay, let's go ahead and do that. Let's table this and we'll move on.
Okay, so the next one is number 12, which is 51053.
Okay. Trying to make my notes here as we go along, so I don't forget nothing. Okay, 5, 10, 5, 3. Another one that's in a PDF. Ken, what did you do?
Hey, I sent everything Word document like I was supposed to.
Let's see here.
So. Yeah, I have it as, 510.53 GP1-012.
I really messed it up here. 510.
510.5.3.
Okay, I found it. Okay, switching it over. Come on. Don't fail me now. All right. Are we seeing it?
That's it.
Oh, can you still see it?
You gotta just blow it up for people probably.
Okay. I just want to make sure you can still see it. Can you see it?
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay.
It's only at 75%. I don't know if you can move your cursor over and.
I blew it up. Okay, I'm gonna stop share and reshare again because I switched screens on it.
All right, this
Still-
is, yep, that's it.
Okay.
So again, this was some meetings that we had with industry and some regional AHJ, clarifying that it is unlike the number one, it's a radio telephone operator's license, which is required. Change the word from installation to acceptance test personnel. That's what industry suggested. And then the last sentence was actually struck. So we didn't want, so right now it's pretty, what's the right word I'm looking for here? Prescriptive that you have one or two. And even though two is still kind of vague because it talks about approved organization. And then you have that very last sentence that says, hey, guess what? If you can demonstrate it to the fire code official that you have adequate skills and experience, that you're good to go without a number one radio telephone operator's license. So it was suggested just to move that out. So a fire code official in one jurisdiction wasn't saying, yeah, this person's fine in my area, even though they don't have an FCC issued general radio telephone operator's license. So that was just making sure that the fire code official wasn't creating a method to individually determine the qualifications and just be prescriptive out of the code. And again, this is one that I don't have too much fight for this one. It was just more of a clarification.
Ken, is it, would it be fair to say that anyone with a valid FCC license would meet number two? Because you're probably not going to get your FCC license without two being involved.
No, because this is the number two, I think, is more for the equipment that gets installed for a manufacturer or something. So it gives you training on how to install and program the equipment.
Oh,
I think just having the radio license doesn't give you that extra level of training, for the equipment you're putting in.
okay. If if someone had an FCC license but didn't have the training on number 2. Because getting rid of the fire code official portion of it put some people in industry in a box.
I don't think so.
Okay,
Everybody I've seen submit gives me their radio operator's license and the stuff from the manufacturer in every package. I haven't seen one that doesn't have it.
okay, thank you, Chris, appreciate that. Okay, any other discussion on this? Okay, with that, looking for a motion to push this to the BFP.
So moved.
Thank you, Dave.
Second.
Second.
Thank you, thank you. Discussion? All those in favor, aye.
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 Any against? Motion carries, thank you.
Okay, I do not want to do the next one because it's going to take up too much time, which is proposal number 13. That's just going to take up a lot of time, so we can just push it to another meeting.
So you want to go to 16?
Well, let me see what did we already do 14? Yeah, we already, yeah, okay, so let me see what 16 is.
You said 13, Ken, I'm sorry.
Yeah, let's go to shit. 6. Yeah, let's do the same thing to 16 because it's, and I'm just worried about time. So just if we can do 16 at our next meeting also. I just want to get out of chapter. Let me see if the 17 is okay.
Okay, so
Okay, yeah, let's go to this, see if we can pull up 17, which is 510.6.4.
and this is number 17?
Yeah, number 17, yeah.
Okay. I'm trying to know my spreadsheet on what we skipped and what we are doing and what we've done.
Okay, so this was asked for the reason of interference happening with some of these systems. And currently right now, as the language reads, that personnel has the right to enter the property at reasonable time to conduct field testing. But what needed to get added was, or to disable a system that due to malfunction or poor maintenance has the potential to impact emergency responder radio system in the region. So when there was problems with interference by one of these systems, there wasn't a mechanism for them to enter the building just to turn that stinking one off. And so the fire department would have the ability to work with the radio licensing, you know, if it's PCERN or whoever you have in your area, to say, hey, this is causing problems on our entire system. We need this building to get turned off. Then it can get turned off and they can notify the building owner of the issue. And then also the AHJ would be aware that the communication in that building might be lacking until it gets fixed. So this was, again, just to allow personnel to disable the system where it's impacting the existing regional coverage, just a way to turn it off. So that's why this was put in.
Hey, Ken, I like this a lot. My only concern would be when I was looking at it earlier, the word poor maintenance. I wrote down in my notes, it's pretty subjective and open for legal interpretation.
I didn't hear, what was the wording?
Poor maintenance.
Oh, poor maintenance?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it could just be to disable the system.
You could say lack of maintenance.
Yeah. that's probably better terms, lack of maintenance. I think lack of maintenance is used in the code someplace.
I don't
I
know that
think-
it's important why it's not working. It's just that it is not working. So it could be just to disable a system that is causing,
That is improperly, is not functioning properly.
that isn't functioning as intended.
Okay.
I like that, Chris.
Yeah, I don't care why. It just isn't working.
No.
Yeah, I guess that's where my hiccup was I don't know why we needed the Y part in there.
So are we
Yeah,
thinking?
how about using the words like a system that is negatively impacting the emergency responder radio system in the region?
That's a lot of words.
Just or disable a system, or to disable a system that is negatively impacting the emergency responder. So we're deleting that due to malfunction or poor maintenance has the potential to. So we're getting rid of all of that. And or to disable a system
Is negatively impacting.
yeah,
Disable the system that
is negatively
Perhaps adversely impacting.
adversely, something.
I like adversely better.
Passive voice.
adversely, is that what you said?
No, you can get rid of a system adversely impacting. So you get rid of that is.
Oh, okay. System adversely impacting due to malfunction.
You don't even need to say malfunction, right? You just see if the system is adversely impacting the emergency responder radio system, it's fair game.
Yep.
Yeah, I like that. So, yep.
Just Ray, just delete everything else up to the emergency responder radio.
Yeah, you don't need to retype it. You can just delete.
Yep.
Okay.
So just before the,
Before this or this?
Go down one line.
or down to impact.
Go down to impacting.
Up.
Okay. Right there, right? I'm sorry, I'm confused a little bit.
Where it's underlined, that line item that's underlined, or poor maintenance.
Oh, all this down here, delete this down here.
Yep,
Yep,
all the way up to,
all the way up to the second
Adversely impact. Oh, and get rid of impacting here, right? And put,
Get rid of the second impact.
yeah,
Yeah,
there we
give
go.
it a second, yeah,
there you
there we
go.
go.
I'm sorry, I didn't see that came down
Global
low.
system impacting the emergency response. Yeah, I think that reads good.
Yeah, I like that one.
Okay.
Okay. All right, any further discussion on that? All right, with that, looking for a motion to push this forward to the BFP committee.
Make a motion to approve this
Second.
as modified.
Thank you, Quinn. Thank you, Matt. Discussion? All those in favor, aye.
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 Against, nay. Motion carries. Thank you.
Was that number 16 we just did?
Yeah, we're gonna go next to 18.
We just did 17.
Oh, just did 17. Okay, yeah, thank you. Ken's fighting me.
That's me.
All right. Let's highlight that, done. And we're going to 18,
Yeah, 18.
510, 424. Like 10. It's 424, huh? Darn it.
I don't know if you all sat through the ICC hearing last month, but this is going a lot smoother and faster.
Who just said that? Who just said that? How dare someone say that? Okay, I'm trying to bring it over here. Get it bigger.
Okay, 510.424. So signal booster requirements. So some of this is existing 2018 Washington State language, and it's very difficult to kind of show the changes between 21 and what we had approved. But I'll try to walk through it a little bit here. Is the IP66 under number 1. We, for some reason, it got printed wrong. It was supposed to be, it got printed in our insert pages as IP65, but it's supposed to be IP66. So that's a cleanup. The or equivalent was already in our 2018 amendment. So I'm just showing it again here. But then there's this new exception was, hey, guess what? If we have listed battery systems that are contained in integrated battery cabinets, then that is an exception that's allowed, not to have the batteries don't necessarily have to be inside that cabinet. It could be their own integrated battery cabinet. The number 2 part, let's see if there's any changes 3R. The IP65 type waterproof cabinet or equivalent, that was language we had in the 2018 amendment. So we're going to keep that. And then again, the same exception gets added in for integrated battery cabinets. Number 5, we already made this language change for, we struck the active RF emitting devices. And in our 2018 amendment, we put in bidirectional amplifiers, BDA. And then instead of the shall have built in, the language that was suggested is shall be fitted with anti-oscillation detection and control circuitry and per channel AGC. So that was some recommendations by industry to include that language. Number 6, no changes. And then number 7 was, again, some industry dealing with PCERN regarding only channelized signal boosters shall be permitted, but you could go with broadband if it was specifically authorized by the fire code official. And I don't know if we want to add in, the frequency licensing authority there or not. But,
I do.
okay. See,
I don't think that the fire code official should be able to authorize that broadband
yeah
broadcast because you just mess everything up.
I agree. So if we want to strike the fire code official, or
I would say strike that and reference the person that owns the frequencies, the block.
So
if we're going to allow the exception, we'd reference the people that actually maintain and own the frequency.
Makes sense to me.
So we're going to strike fire code official right here.
Yes.
And do we want to use that terminology, frequency license holder? Is that what we had before?
Yeah, whatever we used in the other section. Or I'm perfectly okay not having the exception.
Okay, oh, and just only having channelized?
Yeah,
I'm going to have to, I
I
probably
mean,
get
at
to,
least the way our radio shop explained it to me is that because the way our frequencies are channelized and a little bit spread out, we can't authorize people to broadcast on anything except those that we own, which means you have to have a Class A or a channelized Class B.
Yeah, the regional changes, we didn't have the words fire code official. We had it as in writing by the public safety radio system operator. But that's the language it got in regionally, was that exception was allowed. But yeah, I like whatever you're putting in right now. The frequency license holder.
So Chris, are you saying like strike out unless otherwise approved by the fire official? Just only leave the word only channelized signal boosters shall be
Nah, it's okay. I mean, if this is what made it through elsewhere, the real answer is
Well,
the people
no,
that actually operate these frequencies aren't going to allow it anyway. So
no, Chris, he's actually right. And
Yeah.
I'm looking at the regional language, and it's not fire code official. It's public safety. It says unless authorized, approved by the public safety radio system operator. So yeah, it needs to go back to
Okay.
that licensing authority
perfect.
in both places. Good catch, everybody.
I just know that they would yell at me if I ever approved it. So
Yeah, no kidding.
so I deleted unless otherwise approved by the fire code official. And did you want to add?
Did we want to say frequency license holder? Is that what?
Yeah, I would say so.
Oops.
What's the actual
Yeah.
title of that?
Let me see if I can find. Is it a definition one?
Well, I really messed this up, didn't I? I'll clean that up when I do a final.
And we're getting rid of the exception completely, right?
Well, that's up to you guys. Regionally, they kept it in to allow it as, but
Oh.
again, it's the, if the radio frequency license holder says, yeah, that's okay, then it's not on us.
Chris, how do you feel
Yeah.
about that?
I don't think you either need to reword number 7 to be a do this only, and then make the exception say otherwise approved by the frequency license holder, or the exception isn't necessary because what item 7 is saying, if these people say it's okay, you can do something different.
Right,
Does that make sense?
yep. I
Total
think we
sense.
should get rid of the exception then.
I mean, I think the proper code way to write it would be only channelized signal boosters shall be permitted, period, exception, unless otherwise approved by the frequency license holder.
Yeah, I think that would be perfect language.
I do not know why it's not letting me in this box. Oh, don't do that. I hate Adobe for corrections. I'm gonna make a note and I'll strike that exception. So in the motion,
Well,
let's,
we're gonna keep the exception and change
What?
the wording. So we're gonna go, I don't know if you have something you can type in right now, Ray, but if you can type it elsewhere, maybe in a Word document or something, but we're gonna do only channelized signal boosters shall be permitted. And then the exception will read unless when specifically authorized in writing by the frequency license holder. I think I got that right. If I didn't, let me know.
Okay, so let's just start at number 7. We're keeping, we're rewording this one.
You can delete everything before the comma.
Everything before the comma right here.
Yep.
Mhm. And then the exception will read the same, except fire code official is replaced by frequency license holder.
Okay. And my fingers are fat. Fix that. Gosh. Frequency license holder. And then I'll try to get rid of this. Whew.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Okay. All right.
It's
With that, we'll be looking for-
Permitted.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, it's permitted instead of permit up there.
There you go.
Only channelized signal booster shall be permitted. There
we
you go.
Okay.
Excellent. Okay. All right. So looking for a motion to push this forward to the BFP committee.
This is Chris. I'll move to push it forward as edited to the BFP.
Thank you.
Quinn, second.
Okay, got a second from Quinn. Thank you. Discussion? All those in favor, aye.
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 Any against? Okay, motion carries.
Okay. And that was 18, right, that we just did.
Yep, so the next one will be
Okay.
2022.
All right. I appreciate you guys bearing with me.
You're doing good, Ray.
One tag member should have to do this part of the job at least one meeting.
Not it.
Okay, 22, it's 9:15.
915.5.1 and a whole bunch.
9:15.5.1. Okay. Coming up. I appreciate it too when I'm doing that and only one person is talking. You guys are doing great. I've been in council meetings and had 6 people at one time tell me what to type.
Been there.
Okay, so this is just a cleanup. It did not get fixed in the 21 code. So in the explanation, it says in August 2015, the Standards Council voted to relocate the material of the 2015 edition of NFPA 720, which is the standard for the installation of carbon monoxide detection warning equipment, into the 2019 edition of 72. So basically, we're making sure that the reference is correct, that carbon monoxide detection is an NFPA 72, and that's the 2019 version or edition, I'm sorry, is the one that's referenced in chapter 80. So there's 2 different changes here. Is one to change the 720 to 72, and then delete the 720 reference that's in chapter 80.
I think it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Any discussion? Now's the time. Okay, looking for a motion to push this forward to the BFP committee.
So moved.
Thank you, Dave.
Second.
Thank you, Mike. Discussion? All those in favor, aye.
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 Any against? Okay, motion carries. Thank you.
We're gonna go out of order because the next one is a proposal for lithium batteries. We don't want to do that one right now. It's gonna take up more than the time. Let's go to the bottom of the list, which would have been,
31.
is that what's the bottom is? Yeah, 31. Let's go to that one, 508.12.
508.
I'm just trying to, I want to get as many done as we can.
508.
30, 31, there it is. Let's see, what did I do here? Oh, yeah. Yeah, this will bring up the correlations problems we have between our codes. And I think this was brought up in the IBC tag too. I'm not positive, but I just want to make sure somebody captured it. So we have an existing state amendment in the fire code that shows this separation to be 2 hours, but it's not shown as an amendment in the building code. So we would need to just, this is a correlation issue, but I had to get it written down somewhere that it needs to be shown. So it just shows the 2 hours in 9/11 also. So that's it. 508.12 is an existing one that we want to maintain, and then we want to show it again in the building code under 911.1.2.
Okay. Any discussion?
For clarity, it's 508.12 is not a building code section, right? That's just fire code.
Yes.
And then 911.12 is building and fire.
Is 911.12 fire also?
Or
No, it's
I guess
Just building.
just building. So we need to clarify which one is building and which one's fire, right?
Isn't it at the bottom?
It's well, it's
Oh,
at
is
the,
it?
yeah, it's also at the top.
Yeah, it says at the,
If you look at the very top of the document, it says IFC section 508.12 and IBC section 911.12. If you keep going all the way up to the number 1 section of this document.
Yeah, right at the
Oh,
top
okay.
of the.
I see it there.
thing. So, yeah, that correlates. You got it.
Right there.
Okay. As long as that makes sense to staff, I think we're fine.
Does
Yeah.
it make sense, Ray?
no, but I'll get it.
All right.
You guys drew the short straw when you got me.
Okay, so looking for a motion to push this forward to BFP.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Mike. Discussion. All those in favor, aye.
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 Any against? Motion carries. Thank you.
Okay, number 30. When you get to it, it's 507.3.
Go 7.350. Oh, this is another word. 507.3. All right, looks like 50. I'm not seeing it in any of my documents, my folder.
So 507.3, you know,
I don't. Oh, there it is. I found it. Let's see if I missed it in Word somewhere. I told you, you guys drew the short straw when you got me. All right. 507.3.
Okay. All right. So this one, again, is a long-standing state amendment, which I'm asking for some clarification to is the exceptions. The exception number 2. Couple different things. This one, utilizing NFPA 1142, and that we probably want to change section 80 because it only references NFPA 42 in Appendix B. So we want to have a pointer back to 507.3. And then did not know, and maybe Dave, you can help out with this, is a reliable water supply, or just basically the WUI code. Is there something in the WUI code that talks about water supply?
There is.
Okay.
It has,
But the state did not adopt all of the code, right?
No, like 403 was not adopted.
So should we be referencing, instead of just the International Wireland Urban Interface Code, should we be referencing a WAC or something of only the items that we're adopting? Or because I interpret this as, oh my gosh, I'm looking at the entire code.
I was going to, just to give everybody a little bit of background, was it this week, I have filed a CR 101 to make the WUI code WAC 5155. So it's going to actually have its own WAC number and be pulled out of the IFC. And I just did that this week, started the process. So if we make an amendment, my thought was we were taking the existing amendments or the fire code and just bringing them straight over into the WUI code. So I don't know if that helps clarify or unclarify anything. So it won't be chapter 80 in a short time.
Okay, so, well, let me back up. So chapter 80 is just a reference that shows, hey, NFPA 1142 is referenced in Appendix B. But what you're saying is, I mean, that's just chapter 80, just saying it's the reference standards that is adopted.
I was meaning the WUI. I didn't mean to say chapter 80.
Okay. Okay. So I guess my question is then, do we want to change the International Wireland Urban Interface Code to a WAC instead?
It is. Oh, yeah, that process has started.
Okay.
yay.
Is that you, Dave?
That was me. Yay.
Oh, yay. Oh, yeah. So, yeah, I just filed the CR 101 this week.
Yeah, it's been needed to be done for quite some time. We're in Spokane's in the process of adopting the WUI code, and I have to explain to people why it's not its own code, but yet it's its own code.
Yeah, when you and John brought that up, it was like one of those things that just kind of like how it slipped through the cracks. I don't know, but we addressed it.
So do you guys want to make an amendment to this section and just say, or WAC, and then fill in the blank?
I think that would be best. But we don't, do we need to wait on that until it's?
Well, I think the way the last written, it was like, it was going to become effective when DNR came out with their maps, and the DNR maps just came out.
So do we have a WAC number?
Well, we have a WAC number, but it hasn't been codified yet. We just started the process, but it's going to be WAC 5155, but it's not in the code revisor's office or anything at this point.
So why don't you want to just table this one and then we'll just clean it up?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Good idea.
Okay, so what that was, which one was this one that we just?
30.
Number 30.
Okay. Got it.
Okay. To list.
29, Ken?
Yeah, we'll just play with 29. Come on, buddy. You gotta go out. That's section just 503.
Yeah, I'm trying to find it.
I'll just quickly add while this is being looked at, this is a problem I've been working on since I was on the Building Code Council. So Ken, I'd like your path of how you got this taken care of.
What did I do? I'm
Ba-
just-
Basically, we don't adopt 503, and it's by RCW. It's RCW 1927-060, item 5. No provision of the, and it said Uniform Fire Code, it's in the RCW, but no provision of the Uniform Fire Code concerning roadways shall be part of the state building code, provided that this subsection shall not limit the authority of a city, count, or a county to adopt street, road, or access standards. So in a general sense, the state did not adopt fire access roads. So unless somebody did adopt fire access roads, there was no requirement to meet fire access roads. This is at least in the right direction. When I was on the council, we had 9 counties that took no action on the state building code. They adopted what was done. So officially, they did not have fire access road requirements.
So, and that's sort of some of my reasoning is that I think that we, again, need to be looking at all of our state amendments and just running through them again, because over the years, there's different sections that get added that weren't in there before. So what I'm trying to show here is the entire 2021 IFC section 503 and what language is being struck by the state. So if a local person wanted to adopt it, they would know what they would be adopting and they could just unstrike it if they wanted to. And then just trying to clarify that the 503, that all of these sections were excluded except for 503.5 and 503.51 and 503.6. So it was, again, just showing the existing amendment and just trying to clarify what was actually the intent of the legislature.
This brings up a good point. With bringing this up, like Dave was saying, access was also not adopted in the WUI code. So if we adopt this, would we have to address it in the WUI code as well? Or because it would be under a different regulation? Or would they just be in, just the building officials and code officials would just know that they need to, if they're in the wildland urban interface, they just have to adopt it under that code?
It would have to be just a separate thing. Nothing here is new. This is just a clearer way to present the information.
Yeah, and it was more just for a subject of discussion, so everybody could just see it again at the tag level, not to say, yeah, we're good with the existing amendments, but what actually got struck.
No, I think this is great. I just want to make sure that we don't do like an access in the fire code, and then someone they're in the WUI area and they look and they go, oh, it's not adopted. So I just want to.
And so one of the concepts that I've had a problem with in the state of Washington is under 503.4.1 traffic calming devices. That was something that was added in later versions of the code. And when Dave referenced, way back when this got removed, that wasn't even something that was even on the radar. And not knowing if, hey, do we want the fire code official or the fire chief or somebody to say these traffic calming devices are okay or not? That was just one that I had, and I'll bring up my reasoning for that is we had a private road that put in speed bumps. So it was a gated neighborhood, and they decided to put speed bumps in every 25 feet.
Oh, jeez.
Every 25 feet to slow down the kids in their neighborhood. Well, it just tore up apparatus when we had to go in there with it constantly going over it and shaking everything. And I was actually able to use that as, hey, guess what? It's a private road. It's, you know, I'm the fire code official. I don't want you to have those type of traffic calming devices. We can put some other types in. That was an issue that sometimes, you know, locally they may be able to adopt things, but I just use that in my past history when this code section went into effect and we talked about it at the national level. That was the reason I went for it, is because of that history. But again, you guys don't have to do anything on it. It's just showing what's actually approved. That's not struck out. But I don't know if anybody else wanted to bring up anything else.
I like it.
Otherwise,
And my goal was to get some legislative change to this so that, because the issue that we had with this previously before, like I said, 9 counties don't take action on the codes, and trying to get the RCW reworded. And I wasn't able to get somebody to do that. They weren't willing to take that on. But I think that's from the State Building Code Council standpoint, we may want to see what we can do about maybe there may be a recommendation from the tag to say, can we have somebody look at this RCW to make it facilitate better so that we have at least a minimum level of fire access road requirements across the state. And I think there's a way it could be worded so that it could be, if it's not locally adopted, then this becomes the default code or something like that. So it's something just needs to be done with this, because it's just awkward that we don't have any way to reinforce it in those areas that don't take any adoption or make any amendments to the state codes.
Yeah, I think there's probably a way to do that, Dave.
Yep.
So through the process of getting approved here, then going to the committee, and then going to the council, and since it's an RCW, can we propose changing language in here that would then affect the RCW?
That would have to go through legislation.
Okay.
Yep.
I think maybe, Dave, what you're talking about maybe wouldn't necessarily conflict with the RCW. Because it seems to me that the intent was that the fire code shouldn't overrule any locally adopted street stuff, right? Your public works folks. But if your public works folks haven't taken into account anything about fire apparatus, and they assume that the fire people did, then you wouldn't be overruling anything necessarily. It just wasn't covered.
Exactly. If you just change the 503.1 and said, unless, you know, the jurisdiction has adopted their own, you know, street, road, and access standards, you're still meeting the intent of the RCW.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We're coming at a different direction. If we can get this modified, so we can add in that kind of exception to it, because the language says that we can't limit the authority of a city or county to adopt street or road or access standards. But if they're not adopting anything, there's that exception saying if there is no adopted local standards, then these standards will apply.
Most restrictive,
Yeah,
most specific, right?
Mm-hmm.
yeah, maybe that's something we could have Ray run by his legal folks.
Yeah, so my recommendation would be to unstrike everything. And then in 530.1, you just go in there and modify that underlying part. So then it's printed in the fire code
Yeah, it's like, when I worked for Public Works in Lewis County, I would do private road plan reviews for them. And in Lewis County, if it's 300 feet, it meets the county road standard, and which it comes to be a pretty expensive. They have a local adoption for road standards.
Yeah, so last research, there were 9 counties that do not take code action. So, and I used to do on the design side, and we went up and talked to one of the counties and said, well, we're gonna need fire access roads. What are your requirements? And they said, we don't have any. You have to meet the fire code. Well, fire code says, unless you adopt it, we don't have it. So we actually had a building that was proposed by the architect that didn't have adequate fire access roads.
I just from experience, I know that it is a safety factor and needs to be addressed, but I know that Public Works and Community Development, they always go butt heads a little bit on who's in charge of roads. And so I can see why this has been a fight for a while.
Oh, yeah. It's been since, I think, 1987 on this bill.
Oh, jeez, I was in middle school.
So could we table this, and I want to actually, I guess, push the issue and try a little modification to this, and we can just discuss it at the next meeting. Is that okay?
That sounds
That'd be
good.
ideal. Absolutely.
Okay, so with that, and now I got a couple minutes to ask you guys if I need to leave. So what I'm asking is if you guys wanted to run through the rest of them, and if you don't have any questions on something, and you guys, well, actually, if I leave, does that kill the quorum?
Let me
Yeah.
see.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, well then, I have, crap, didn't even be able to get to the other business. So with the permission of the chair, I got like 3 minutes. Could we jump to that 904.1
Yes.
thing?
Ken, I don't have a document for that.
Yeah, I'm gonna pull it up here. Hold on.
Okay. I'm gonna stop sharing so you can pull it. To be honest, we got through a lot more proposals than I expected us to.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, you guys have been great to work with today. Like every other time.
That's why I said earlier that this is definitely a lot better than the ICC hearing.
Okay, my changes. 904.11, there it is. Okay. All right. Let me share screen 2. Get rid of my big head. Okay. So this is what's in it, that again is an emergency amendment, won't start until July 1. But what I did is, if you look at 904.1.1, I researched the certifications, and the word design should not be in there because those testing does nothing to do with design. It's just installation and inspection. So I eliminated that out of 904.1.1. Did the same thing in the 904.1.1.1, the pre-engineered, got rid of the word design. And then in 904.1.1.2, there is no ICC certification for engineered fire suppression system. It's only through NAFED. And then I deleted the word design and also deleted on kitchen suppression systems, because this engineered fire suppression system certification has nothing to do with kitchen suppression systems. And then in the 1.1.3, again, I eliminated the word design and got rid of the on kitchen suppression systems, because that should not be in this section, because again, the industrial fire extinguishment system test has nothing to do with kitchen suppression system. So this is just my proposal for an emergency amendment. So if this is going to have to start getting enforced, then a fire code official could actually enforce this section with that small cleanup. And then I'm good for questions for.
What happens to the design personnel requirements? does it pretty much axe it out of that whole section at that point, just because those certifications don't apply directly to design?
Yeah, exactly, because the title, I mean, even though title's not enforceable, but certification of service personnel, that's what this is, service personnel. So service personnel aren't the ones doing the design. And again, the testing that's referenced in here does not test for design. It only tests for installation and maintenance.
I guess my only concern would be that, I guess anyone, they could look at this and say, well, you know, anyone can design it. And then when it goes down the line, the next person has to have the certification, you know, for the install and maintenance.
So I want to pull something else up here really quick. So hold on.
If only listed equipment is permitted to be installed, then that would relieve the burden of the designer to show certification. Perhaps.
That's true.
That's a good point.
Well, I would agree to some extent with that, but there's definitely a design element to these systems, even though it's kind of plug and play where they take elements from the Ansel. They're definitely compiling or organizing. I mean, it's the same argument of a NICET sprinkler designer. Even, you know, the engineering world has heartburn over the engineering or the design statement, but it's a very real design component that a NICET certified sprinkler layout technician, I think is the term that they're using now. It's still design, looks like a duck, quacks like a duck. It's a duck. We have the same issue here. I'm not set on the word, but I think we need to have something in place for that. I'm using the word design, but it's not design. I understand where we're at. So
when it comes as a kit of parts, that there is some component of field design, for lack of a better word, that would require some certification or qualifications to put those parts together as a whole in the installation.
Right.
Ken, I know you're on a time crunch. I don't want to cut anyone else off, but go ahead, Ken.
Yeah, so and again, we have some time. So if you're going to have a tag meeting next week, which I hope you are, so we can continue working through these. This is brought to your attention now. We can discuss it again, because I would just want to try to get it on the council meeting that they're having, I think on the 18th. And we could do that if we still met on it. Just if we could get this out and people could discuss it and see if we really need an emergency rule to clean this up or not, if it's going to be unenforceable because of the words kitchen suppression system. So that's just what I needed to bring up, and I will let you guys discuss what you want. And I am so sorry that I have to leave and kill the quorum.
No, that's okay, Ken. That's all right. So with that, we can't really take care of any further business.
We can review, but we have to review them at the next tag meeting anyways. Because we got to vote to move them to the VFP.
Okay.
Ken, I only had one question on this. Ken and I talked about a little bit, maybe somebody on the tag would know. We ran into this with a NICET certification. I think we want to be careful that if there's more certified.
Yeah, I researched that, Ray, and there is no NICET certification for this.
But is there another test or a certification agency other than NICET that may be doing this? That's my only concern.
Yeah, I could not find one, but I didn't do a deep dive.
Because when we did the NICET, NAFED came forward and we had to emergency rule them back into it because we didn't realize that they were actually just as their certification was just as good as the NICET.
All right, guys, I gotta go.
Yeah, Ken, thank you.
All right.
Yeah, just a little bit of background on the ICC NAFED. That was something that was on the last tag, obviously, with things that we were talking with, and we did do the review. What we didn't realize is basically the NAFED test is the ICC test. So we weren't necessarily getting another test. We were just getting another group that was administering the test. So the ICC at NAFED is appropriate. It's just that the issue we've had with this one since the tag put this on, it's been delayed for implementation because people haven't been able to get the test results quickly. So this most recent emergency rule was to delay the implementation to allow the contractors more time to get the testing. So we haven't heard complaints about the design side. It's just a matter of they don't have the time to get it tested. And a lot of the industry said, hey, we didn't even know about this. We've been working on it since the 2015 code, basically, what started some of it. So it's been working on it for several years. It's just how to get all the word out to everybody. And you typically can't get everybody that, but that's just some of the background.
Okay, Dave, do you feel that the ICC NAFED certifications lend to some sort of proof of competency in design? I guess that's
Something that I didn't delve into it myself. I just remember being on the tag and we talked about that, and we had a presentation that compared the two different certifications that were talked about at that time. Because there was a difference between them for whatever reason back then, and we basically said, yeah, it's equivalent. Well, apparently NAFED now it just uses the ICC test.
Okay.
So
yeah. Tony, this was my proposal back in 2015, and it came up fairly quick at the time. It was probably after a bad inspection I had done, and I was tired of dealing with it, and I wanted something on paper, but. Ultimately, the proposal was just to look and see what, to have something consistent. If our primary I'm certified in a bunch of stuff and it all says ICC at the front. And so ICC seems to be the front running certification, and it's easy to get and it's straightforward and there's books available. And we've come leaps and bounds over the years of being able to get this particular training. So the ICC kind of seemed like a slam dunk at the time, although I'm not opposed to any of the other, just like NICET. The NICET was my proposal back in 2007 or 2008, I guess, somewhere back in there. And then of course, other agencies come out and want to talk about their certification process as well, which is fair. At the end of the day, we need educated, trained people in the field. How we get there, I'm not necessarily, I don't really have a dog in that fight, but we need to make sure that it's simple, cheap, and satisfies the requirements. ICC seemed like the logical one, logical choice. And because they were partnering with the NIFED stamp, I guess, or a label, seemed like the right route.
Yeah, no, and I agree.
Tony, can I stop you just for a second? Being so we have a lack of quorum, we need to end the official meeting. We can still continue our conversation, but we need to end the official meeting of the tag.
I was just going to ask if we were a quorum because it doesn't look like we have a lot of people here.
Yeah, we don't have a quorum anymore, so we need to end the official. We can still discuss and keep this going, but we need to end the.
Okay, with that, the meeting is adjourned and we can continue discussion. Does that do it?
Thank you.
All right, perfect. Thank you, Ray. Appreciate that. And yeah, Mike, I think